South Africa's former First Lady Winnie Mandela has passed away at age 81. Mexico responds to Trump's rant on soft immigration. Tech stocks dive into negative territory for 2018 amid trade war fears. And Mexico's largest technology fair, Talentland, is underway in Jalisco. Hello and welcome to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Joseph Garza. Let's get on to today's information. South Africa's former First Lady Winnie Madikizela Mandela and her former husband Nelson Mandela, who were both imprisoned, were a symbol of the country's anti-apartheid struggle for 3 decades. Crowds of mourners and political figures flocked to her home in Soweto in Johannesburg after news of her death broke. Family spokesman Victor Dlamini confirmed earlier on Monday that Mrs. Mandela succumbed peacefully in the early hours of Monday afternoon, surrounded by her family and loved ones, following a long illness which had seen her go in and out of hospitals since the beginning of the year. Mrs. Madikizela Mandela was born in 1936 in the Eastern Cape, then known as Transkei. She was a trained social worker when she met her future husband in the 1950s. They went on to have 2 daughters together. They were married for a total of 38 years, although for almost 3 decades of that time they were separated due to Mr. Mandela's long imprisonment. It was Mrs. Mandela who took his baton after he was jailed for life, becoming an international symbol of resistance to apartheid. She too was jailed for her role in the fight for justice and equality. To her supporters, she became known affectionately as Mother of the Nation. In a televised address, President Cyril Ramaphosa, whom Mrs. Madikizela Mandela praised earlier this year, called her a voice of defiance against white minority rule. In the face of exploitation, she was a champion of justice and equality, he said on Monday. Retired Archbishop and Nobel laureate Desmond Tutu said she was a defining symbol of the struggle against apartheid. Her courageous defiance was deeply inspirational to me and to generations of activists, he added. Energy Minister Jeff Radebe, reading out a statement on behalf of the family, paid tribute to a colossus who strode the South African political landscape. As the ANC, we dip our revolutionary banner in salute of this great icon of our liberation struggle, he said. The Mandela family are deeply grateful for the gift of her life, and even as our hearts break at her passing, we urge all those who loved her to celebrate this most remarkable South African woman. The Secretary of Government in Mexico, Alfonso Navarrete, agreed with his U.S. counterpart Kirstjen Nielsen to analyze ways to deal with migratory flows after strong criticism by U.S. President Donald Trump. We agreed to analyze the best ways to address migratory flows in accordance with the laws of each country, Navarrete posted on his Twitter account, hours after Trump questioned Mexico for allowing Central American immigrants to cross the southern border, detailed the Reuters agency. Mexico is doing very little but nothing to prevent people from passing through its southern border and then reaching the United States, Trump posted on Twitter. They laugh at our silly immigration laws. They must stop the flows of drugs and people, or I will stop their flow of money. NAFTA, we need the wall, he added. In another message, the president also announced the end of the DACA program that protects immigrants who entered the country as children. Last month, dozens of immigrant protection organizations, along with some 1,500 Central Americans, began a long journey through Mexico to highlight the violence and abuses against those seeking the so-called American dream that are often abducted, murdered, and even raped. According to Pueblos Sin Frontera, an NGO that organizes the Caravan of Refugees 2018, only a handful of these migrants will seek to reach the United States. Most will stay in Mexico, fleeing the violence in their own countries. The law is very clear. Even if they enter irregularly in Mexico, the immigrants are not criminalized. Therefore, their free passage is guaranteed in the Constitution. Senator Angelica de la Peña, president of the Human Rights Commission of the Upper House, told Reuters. Mexico and the United States, together with Canada, are negotiating to modernize the North American Free Trade Agreement that has existed for 20 years. But Trump has threatened to exit the agreement if Mexico does not help stop this flow of migration. In other news, U.S. stocks tumbled Monday as President Trump doubled down on his criticism of Amazon, sending shares in the technology and consumer discretionary sectors lower. The selling also comes ahead of the Trump administration's plan to unveil this week a list of Chinese imports targeted for U.S. tariffs. The list of $50 billion to $60 billion worth of annual imports is expected to target largely high-technology products. The more tech-heavy NASDAQ 100, which has been a lightning rod for market volatility in recent weeks, plummeted as much as 3.9% to lead all major U.S. indexes. Meanwhile, the benchmark S&P 500 dropped as much as 3.3%, and the 30-company Dow Jones Industrial Average at one point slid more than 3.1%, or 759 points. Among the worst-hit technology firms were chip makers, including Lam Research, Micron Technology, NVIDIA, Intel, and Cisco, which all dropped at least 3.9%. Because of their position in supply chains, these firms are more vulnerable to geopolitical turmoil, particularly as it pertains to China. Mega-cap technology companies also took a dive as the New York Stock Exchange FANG Plus Index, which includes Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and 6 other massive global firms, decreased 4.1%. Amazon, Netflix, and Tesla all logged losses exceeding 5.1%. Elsewhere in global equity markets, the Shanghai Composite lost 0.2% after climbing as much as 0.7% in early trading, while the Stoxx Europe 600 increased 0.4%. In the bond market, the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield fell 1 base point to 2.73%, close to the key 3% level that traders are closely watching. Bank of America Merrill Lynch has said a trade war could move yields higher in the medium to long term. In other news, Talentland, the largest innovation and technology event in Mexico, has begun in Jalisco with the participation of Governor Aristoteles Sandoval and will be carried out until Friday, April 6th. We came here to develop and generate opportunities, spaces to keep growing so that we can co-create, so that we can transform our environment and attract the future, design it, and solve the solutions, Sandoval said. In turn, Pablo Anton Ortiz, co-founder of Talentland, thanked the attendees and the organizers, especially the government of the entity, and also invited attendees to do lots of networking and to especially enjoy all the content. The vice rector of the University of Guadalajara, Carmen Rodriguez Armenta, spoke of the importance of this type of event. Here are the builders of the future. We hope that as leaders through the Internet of Things, nanotechnologies, big data, and supercomputer analysis, among others, can develop solutions for Jalisco and Mexico and the world, but above all for the planet that will be inherited to the next generations, said Rodriguez Armenta. The Ministry of Innovation of Jalisco, the University of Guadalajara, and Expo Guadalajara will host the Jalisco Talentland. Leading technology brands worldwide, such as Google, Adobe, Cisco, Bosch, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, BMW, Cabify, and Uber will participate in the largest innovation and technology event in Mexico, said Pablo Anton. And finally, let's take a look at the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.53% to 18.3137 from 18.2176 in the previous trading session. On the other hand, the IPC Mexico increased 1.87% to 46,684 from 45,827 in the previous trading session. This was all for today. Thank you again for staying with us. I'm Joseph Garza. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.